Y'all ready for this?
Welcome to the Teaching Bites podcast. Here are your hosts, Fred and Sharon Jaravada.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the show. I'm Fred Jaravada. Okay, today I have a special guest. I have Christina Costa here. She is the mastermind behind Teach Like a Girl. You can find her on Instagram, on YouTube, and also on Teachers Pay Teachers. I'll have the link on the show notes so you can go in and find her. And let's go find out more about Christina Costa.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, Fred.
Finally, huh?
Yes, finally.
Well, I know you just moved, right?
I did.
And then my family, we just moved also. So I know a lot of timing, and then I try to catch it like the end of the school year. It's just way
Right,
too
a lot
much.
going on.
Way too much. All right.
Too much.
So I gave a little quick intro about who you are, what you do, but
Yes.
you had to talk about what you are, who you are, your evolution, your origin story.
Sure.
Can you share with us how did you get into teaching and where you come from? How did you get into teaching and so on? All right.
Sure, I'd love to. So, I grew up moving around a lot. My dad worked for GM, but he was in the international sector. So I had quite an interesting education experience myself. I went to a private school in Australia, all-girls school, a public school in the U.S.
Hey, which school? Which school in Australia? Which school?
It is called Furbank Grammar School in Melbourne. Okay.
We have a. I used to work at a school Sacred Heart. We have a sister school in Sydney.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we were in Melbourne.
Nice.
And then an international school in Brazil. And so from Brazil, I moved back to the U.S. for college. So my own education was very interesting. And I went to the University of Michigan here in Ann Arbor, which is where I am again.
Wolverines.
Right, go blue. And I studied neuroscience and cognitive psychology. And so teaching wasn't really ever something I thought I would be interested in. However, my mom was a teacher. She's a special educator.
Oh, wow.
And right. So my senior year of college, I was doing my thesis on orphanage work in Brazil in the U.S. And I was really interested in going back to Brazil and dealing with a lot of injustices that Brazilians face in terms of education. And I had a professor who said, hey, like we have the same injustices here, although you might not be aware of it because you moved around so much. We have a lot going on in education here. Why don't you do some work in education here? And so from there, she pointed me to Teach for America, which is a program that places college students in urban education. And I went into it thinking that I, wanted the experience of just seeing what a school was like. And I ended up loving being in the classroom and working with kids. And now it's something that no matter what I do, I will always have to work with kids because they are so funny. And like, that's where I get my energy is from kids.
They bring you life, right? Yeah.
Right. So it's kind of a non-traditional route into education, but
now, what grade level?
I taught 6th and 7th grade science
Wow.
for my 2 years. Yep.
Nice. Okay. All right. So,
middle school.
So tell us about your teaching experience. I mean, what year was this when you started teaching?
So I graduated in 2015, started teaching in 2015. I just finished my 2nd year. So I've been teaching 2 years. I was placed at a charter school within Detroit. So within Teach for America, you list your options as cities. I always wanted to be in Detroit because it was closest to Ann Arbor, and my family had just moved back to Michigan from Brazil, so I wanted to stay around family. And then, with Teach for America, you're placed at a school. You don't get much of a choice. So I was placed in a charter school, placed in science. I assumed I was going to get science because my college credits were mostly in science. And I opted into middle school, not knowing what people said about middle school.
Wait, what did people say about middle school?
Well,
what do you mean?
I will never forget this. I ranked middle school first, then high school, then elementary school, which would probably be very opposite now. And I told my mom that, and she said, "You've got to be kidding. You just made like a very interesting mistake." And I didn't understand because I always loved 12-year-olds, just in babysitting. I loved that age. And I learned the unique challenges that come along with middle school, but I will say that it is definitely the most entertaining grades to teach, in my opinion.
Yeah, I teach middle school also. But
you do? Okay.
After I taught the elementary school from kindergarten to
Oh, okay. So you went up.
I went up. Yeah.
Okay.
So I have a feeling, yes, that I probably wouldn't tell anyone to jump into elementary school unless they really wanted to do that first. What did your mom say when you told her about the going into middle school?
Oh, she just said that it's a very, very interesting age. And she said, you'll either know when you teach it or when you have your own kids that are in middle school. And so she said, you're going to find out sooner than later.
Or those hormones, they're just growing in front of you. It's just crazy. Huh?
Oh, they're exploding. But it's such a unique age.
They got a lot of energy.
I ended up loving it. Right,
Yeah.
right, right.
Now it was boys and girls you were teaching, right?
Right, right. It was very interesting. My second year, we dealt with a lot of turnaround working in the charter school. So my second year, our principal we had three sections in each grade, and he wanted to do an all boys section, an all girls section, and a mixed.
Hmm.
So my first year, everything was mixed, and then the second year, I kind of got to experience this unique, I would call it an experiment
Hmm.
of teaching an all boys class, an all girls class, and then a mix. That was very
So
interesting.
what do you? So share some stories about that. How did that go? You had a unique experience of doing a mixed class, and then it became kind of single sex classrooms. What's
Yeah.
your take on that?
Um, God, and was thinking back to my own experience being in an all-girls school. For me, being in an all-girls school was really difficult. There was a lot of cattiness, so I thought, this will be interesting seeing it on the other end. I found that I had to change my style of teaching to each class. I would say my mixed class was kind of just the most level-headed. The all-boys class had tons of energy, and the all-girls class also had tons of energy.
Hmm.
Everyone dreaded the all-girls class, I will say.
Wow. Hmm.
They were an interesting group.
Now, how did the faculty? How did they adjust to that?
But you know what? There's so much turnaround that I was actually, when I left my school, the most senior teacher in the middle school after being there only 2 years. So we had a whole new faculty. So for them, it was just
Right.
new.
Right. Okay. So you taught for 2 years straight.
Yes.
And then you had an announcement later, a couple of weeks ago. But before we get
hmm
into that, so what did you think about teaching?
I loved it. My first
Mhm.
year, I did not. My first year I just thought every single day, like, okay, what am I going to do? How am I going to get out of this after only 1 year if I've made a 2 year commitment? Like, what's the easiest way to get out? Because it was so difficult. And you hear all the time that teaching is extremely difficult and it's taxing and there are pressures. But I think until you experience it, you really don't understand what those pressures are, especially being in such an unjust system. And so it was very difficult. But my second year, I think I took a lot of good advice to just be myself and not so much worry about what other people thought or what other people said was the right way to teach. And so the second I was myself and I got to start over with a new group of kids, I just loved it. Like seeing those connections, seeing them learn something, the personal aspect, meeting families, being able to engage in that way and have a group of students really, grow with that relationship and have them care about you as
Right.
a person too. Like I felt they taught me so much and they cared for me so much. It's such a unique, um, it's a unique job,
Hmm.
and I feel like no one else can understand that level of you put in so much to a job and you put so much of your heart into your job, but then you get it back, and it's so rewarding. So I'm really glad I didn't, let that voice in my head say you need to quit, because my second year I just kind of became myself and really, really fell in love with teaching.
So in your first year, I'm assuming it was mostly were you struggling not with the curriculum itself. You were more. I'm assuming that it was the challenges of the interaction with people, with the
Yeah,
kids, but with the administration, and so on. How it all works out. How it all works. Is that it?
yeah, and just Detroit is a very interesting place for education
Hmm.
with the different systems we have, and I don't really know who has an answer for it yet, but just being right into that system and realizing like what injustices were being done to my kids, and then trying to teach them on top of that, and dealing with all that thing, being in charge of a group of children,
Right.
like that comes with a lot of responsibility, and that was a lot of weight on my shoulder, thinking like, am I doing the right thing every day? And I think halfway through, and my mom was there the whole time too, and her telling me, you know what, by you showing up every day, like you are doing so much more than you think you are. I think I was really hard on myself. And so just, I think a lot of negative self-talk, and it's just, you can't know what it's like until you experience your first year of teaching.
Right. Yeah.
And
Now, did your mother work in the same school?
no, she taught for, gosh, she retired when we moved, one of our moves, I think, to Australia, and
Okay.
she's just coaching right now. So she
Nice.
actually is an artist too, and teaches art classes now, but she would come volunteer with me and just pull small groups, and that was just so helpful to have someone to just say, hey, you're doing a good job.
Right.
Like that just helps so much to be like, hey, you're actually, this is good, you're doing a
That's
good
awesome.
job. Like I needed that.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool to have
Yeah.
a person to be there and giving you some affirmations, and but at the same time, she's your mother, right? So
Right.
she
I
can
just
feel
needed
with you,
someone.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. She was gonna be nice to me.
That's awesome. That's very cool.
Yeah.
I love having family members understand what teaching is about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So um, before we jump into that, some quick advice for new teachers,
Oh
or that
gosh.
person coming into from say teaching. Say if you could talk to yourself a couple years ago, right before you signed that contract.
Yeah.
What's your
So
best advice to yourself?
this is funny. I actually just made a video, and it was I think it's called Pep Talk for Teachers, or Pep Talk for New Teachers. And basically the whole video is kind of funny because I felt like I was talking to myself. And it's just affirmations like, you are going to make so many mistakes, but it's okay, and you are going to learn from them. And to just be yourself, because kids are so unbelievably intelligent, even in the younger grades, and they know if you are not being yourself. And I think, part of social media and things that we see these really, really cool examples of different teachers who do different things. And sometimes I feel like we think that we need to do that. But I'm just really a big believer in affirming to be who you are. If you're the nerdy teacher that tells all the math jokes, like be that nerdy teacher, and the kids are going to love it. If you're like the strict teacher who puts on a face and that's who you are, do that, and the kids are going to love it. I just be yourself. That's my biggest piece of advice.
Be yourself. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so recently you had a big announcement in one of your
Yes.
videos. Also,
Yes.
can you share with us and our listeners of what your announcement was?
Yes. So I was accepted to a PhD program at the University of Michigan. So I'm back in Ann Arbor. And it's within the psychology department, but it is also going to be linked to education. So I'm very excited for that.
Nice. So you're taking the next couple of years off from teaching,
Yep.
active
Yep.
teaching, right? Okay, cool. That's very cool. So, do you what's making you stay in the the education part of psychology?
I could never leave education. I mean, I remember when I talked to my professor, because PhD programs are very much you and your relationship with a professor, and
Hmm.
helping them. It's very much that relationship more than just your own interests. And I remember talking to my professor and saying, like, everything am going to do is going to be based in education. That is just those are just my goals. That's just what I want to do. I can never see myself, and actually I'm already freaking out about not being around kids 24/7. Like I can never see myself not being in education.
Now, what do you want to do with that?
So, yeah, you mean like after?
Hmm.
Yeah, so it's
Or,
kind of
or is there like a
exciting.
focus? Is there a focus in part of that education, special
Yeah,
education, or middle school
yeah,
kids? What? Hmm.
yeah. So, my professor's work is in kind of a new field of psychology called positive psychology. So, positive psychology really focuses on the positive strengths and character traits. And so what I am really interested in and what I'm going to use, my majority of my time with research is doing some case studies and looking at both character strengths and um, morality in adolescence. So I do actually want to stay with the middle schoolers.
Wow. Okay.
Because that is just such a unique age. I think we learn so much, and just being around middle schoolers really gave me a lot of questions. So I want to do a lot of that, and of course I really want to I want to focus on confidence of young girls, because that middle school, actually before middle school, to be honest, is when that confidence and negative self-talk sort of comes out. So I'd like to stay in that realm of things. But eventually, I kept thinking, people always ask, okay, so what are you going to do with it? Are you going to be a professor? What else are you going to do with a PhD? And at first I really wasn't sure. And now I'm kind of, sitting and enjoying the excitement of not knowing what the next step is going to be. Like, am I going to go back to the classroom? Am I going to be part-time in the classroom? Am I going to be a professor? Am I going to write books? Like, I'm just not sure. And
Maybe a
that's kind of
principal.
exciting for me, right? Like, it's kind of exciting not knowing and just kind
Mhm.
of living in the moment and focusing on what I'm passionate about. And I hope to kind of lead by example to show people that they can do that too, and that
Right.
it's not, education is just not one. There's not one facet. There are tons of things that you can do in the field of education and still be really impactful, impact students' lives.
This is very cool. I'm glad you're going in that direction because I think a lot of it is the whole movement of the social emotional learning. It's happening,
Right.
and the empowerment of young ladies and today's political climate. I think it's
Yeah.
very, very important that you go that route, and I think we need people in that route. Hey, you may
Yeah.
become the next Secretary of Education.
Oh my goodness. No, thank you.
That'd be awesome.
I can't do politics.
Hey, you're
That
out
would
there
be
on social
cool.
media, though. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um, all right, so let's talk about social media and how you use it. The
Sure.
way I discovered you is through Instagram,
Okay.
and I remember when I think I followed you. I think in January. I don't know this year,
Oh yeah.
or
That's
maybe even
early.
before that. But I'm very selective of who I follow, especially I usually follow the ed tech world. I'm in the whole
Mhm.
educational technology world, and there are quite a few teachers I follow also. But usually I avoid a lot of the Pinterest perfect looking
Yeah.
classrooms. I'm not saying they're
Yeah.
not great and all, but I just choose to look for the messiness.
Mhm.
I think that's what I like, the messy part of learning. And I came to your YouTube profile and I saw your videos and I look at, this is a teacher that's having fun with their kids. And then I remember like, wait a minute, you're playing all these fidget spinners with your kids. And
Oh
it's
yeah.
like most teachers that at least I know, they hated those fidget spinners.
Yeah.
But I love the fidget spinners because I even got the 3D print those out. But
Oh my
um,
gosh, I collected those things.
so
I have like
talk
20.
about your journey of using Instagram. What made you do that? And because I know
That's a good question.
a lot of teachers are afraid to use social media.
Yeah.
And can you
Yeah.
talk about that real quick?
Sure. Well, first of all, I'm so honored to know that I'm one of the selective, messy teachers chosen. What an honor. Um, they should come out
Well,
with
it's you
awards.
and the Golden State Warriors is who I follow.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You know what? This is very funny because throughout my college life, I was anti social media. Like, I found myself, and we can probably talk about this later, but I found myself just comparing myself to other people and lack of confidence. And I said, I just can't. I deleted my personal Facebook. I deleted my personal Instagram.
Hmm.
And so a year into teaching, I'm trying to think. Now you're making me think of like the first moment I thought, okay, I want to do this. You know what it was? So actually, my TPT came before my Instagram. I wanted to form a girls club, and I wanted some resources to do it, and I couldn't find any. So I said, I can make this myself. And then it was over winter break. I started looking things up, saying, this is really cool. I could put it out there for other teachers. And then I found that a lot of teachers who use TPT or Teachers Pay Teachers have an Instagram. So this all happened over winter break. And I just said, you know what? I'm just going to put myself out there. I think I have my ideas aren't really exactly the ones that are being shared, but I think I have something to share. And so I started my Instagram kind of as a market for my TPT store and to market my curriculum. And it ended up being so much more. Even to think about the things like that I post now and the things I'm really passionate about now, it's very interesting. It's become very personal. But it was just so much fun to post things to my kids and people, thinking it's funny or see them. I would do the thing where I would do dance dares and dance behind the kids and post that.
Right.
And then another teacher would send it to me where she was doing the same thing. It just became such a positive space to share my ideas and interact with other people.
Now you do Instagram primarily. Do you do like Twitter and the other ones? Facebook. You said
I try to Twitter. I can't do it.
Why?
I don't get it. I try. I seriously don't. I'm like, I follow people on Twitter, but I'm like, I don't know. I've even asked my teenage sister, and she's like, yeah, I can't help you.
Now that's a good question. Now, you said your sister she's a teenager right now. Do you see the? I mean, you're a millennial, right? Now,
Yeah.
social media in terms of their in I'm generalizing now in middle and maybe you can
Mm-hmm.
some light on this. Don't you guys like using social media? And but you said you kind of like through that you shut me down on. I thought you were love social media, but now I see it you're using it as a tool. It seems now, right? Because I think
Yeah.
teachers, the older teachers like myself or older, they think social media is just like kind of like selfies.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, I definitely use it for. I mean, anything personal that I post is just now like sharing people who I am. And I think that gives people a lot of trust for me to not only post like things that I sell. I'm really not interested in selling things. I'm interested in progressing an idea and a movement. And so whenever I share personal things, it's more just to show people who I am. You're right, it is interesting. Like, I'm sure the way my sister uses social media is so different than the way I use it.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people will have their teacher account and their personal account.
Mm-hmm.
That's very common. And their personal account is more the way they interact with people. But I don't have a personal account. Like, that's me.
Cool. Yeah, that's you. All right.
Yeah.
Now, how do you deal with like negative people on social media?
Oh my gosh, you are psychic. I just did a video about this too. It's called Responding to Haters.
Oh, okay. Well, talk about that real quick.
Okay.
How do you
So,
respond to these haters? Yeah.
yeah, the haters. Yeah, this is interesting. So I wasn't going to make a video about this because my immediate response to people who are writing hateful comments is to automatically delete it and don't even engage. I see like when I go into my mom's Facebook, it drives me crazy because her feed is a bunch of people like posting things and then engaging with people who have different views. And sometimes just like I don't think we're gonna come to a neutral conclusion. Like if I'm posting something about feminism and you're hating on feminism, I highly doubt that by me like engaging in your hateful comment are you going to in turn become a feminist. Like that's just I feel like people who are writing negative and hateful comments are either insecure with themselves, don't have anything to do, jealous of something you have. So my automatic response is to delete. But in this video, I chose 3 hate comments that I've gotten recently and I just responded to them. But just making it fun, and I think sometimes the best way to handle it is to laugh at it. But I did recently have a couple people reach out to me and say, hey, like, how do you deal with hate? Because I've gotten a couple comments and it really sticks with me. Like, I feel like as people, we remember all of those hateful comments. We can read them word by word, but we don't think about the hundreds of positive comments that outbalance that.
Right. That's
So I just
weird.
say
Huh?
delete.
That's a weird psychology thing, right? Psychological.
It is. Like I could tell you word for word what people have said hateful before I could like remember something word for word someone said positive.
And there's probably hundreds of those positive things. This is weird.
Oh yeah.
Like that,
It
right?
is. Yeah. So just delete and move on.
Delete it, move
That's
on.
what I do. Yep.
Okay, so let's jump back to your classroom experience with your kids.
Sure.
Now, how did they take it? How did those kids, those 6th, 7th graders, how did they take to you as a teacher? How did you earn their trust, and how did they trust you? Um, yeah, how did they do that?
Yep, that's a
How did
really good
they do that?
question.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, as much as I talk negatively about my first year of teaching, when I look back on it, I did have really positive relationships with my students. And like I tend to not boast about that, but when I really do want to positive self-talk, like I did really build positive relationships with them. And we had a very negative school culture, and so I think by just being somebody that they could talk to was really positive. Also, and I preach this all the time, but just interacting with families, like having those phone numbers in my phone of their parents and calling them. On my first year of school, I had about like a 40-minute commute home, and I would just Bluetooth and just make phone call after phone call. And most of the time it was positive. Like if I had the worst day ever, I would only make positive calls. And by the time I got home, I would be like, oh, that wasn't so bad, because I was just thinking about, again, we kind of tend to think of the negative, but when I was making those calls, it was just positive, positive, positive. And, you know, in middle school especially, I had colleagues who wouldn't make phone calls and they said it wasn't necessary. But then they would ask me why I had such positive relationships, and I would say because I know their mom. Like their mom and I have conversations on a weekly basis. And so when something bad happens, when I call their mom, she trusts me 100% because I've already told her why her kid is X, Y, and Z amazing for so many reasons, that when I have something like, hey, I need help, she's going to be up at school in the next 2 minutes. And so I think the kids saw that in me, that I had those positive relationships. And then they would start to say things like, hey, can you call my mom and tell her I did this today? Or, you know, that I helped my teammate, you know, little things like that. So family relationships for me were huge when it came to the students, both years.
That's really awesome. That's very cool. That's the and I read a lot about how you should call parents and let them know
Yeah.
how their child is doing, and keep it positive.
Yeah.
And you're one of the first ones I've really heard that you actually took the time during your commute. You're not driving, obviously, but you took the time to actually do that during your commute home. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Wow,
It
very.
was just fun. It was
Mhm.
fun for me, and it gave me something positive. When I thought my whole day went terribly, I could just think about those specific students, and even on my way to work the next day, just think about those calls and know that there was positive in the work I was doing.
So what would you share with the parents? Something positive. What
Oh
example?
gosh, anything. I mean, I'm trying to think, maybe one of like the funniest things, but you know, I had a boy who was just your classic bully. I mean, just
Hmm.
picked on. He was big and he picked on the little kids. And one time he just randomly out of nowhere stood up for somebody else. Like somebody was talking about somebody else and he stood up, and it was in the middle of class too. And he was like, hey, don't say that. Like, don't talk about them. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I called his mom. I said, you'll never guess what he did today. He stood up for this person, and I'm so proud of him, and that's amazing. And she was just like, wow, like, thank you for letting me know that, because I would have never known.
Right.
I get negative calls with him all day. Um, so hearing the positive, but yeah, I really anything. And sometimes I had to dig for the positive, but
You found them.
it's there.
It's there. That's awesome. That's
Yeah,
very cool. Okay, so talk about your TPT store and how you
sure.
have about that I saw one leadership, women in leadership, young women
Mm-hmm.
in leadership. I'm probably botching it, but I'll
No,
have
you're fine.
the links in the show notes too.
Sure.
Mhm.
So that product, which is probably my biggest selling product, and the reason why I created my TPT store,
And
um,
what's the name of the TPT store?
it's Teach Like a Girl with I think with spaces on TPT. Teach Like a Girl. But that's the one I was talking about earlier, that I is the reason I created it, because you know, looking at TPT is pretty saturated these days. So there are a lot of resources, and there are some big sellers who are making it all because it started so early. And I kept searching for things like lessons on feminism or female empowerment or like confidence journals, and I couldn't find anything. So I said, you know what? I think that this might be a unique little niche, um, where I can create this and do that. So over break, I worked on those resources and I created just, it's basically like a bundle of mini lessons. that I could use, and includes things like a note you would send home, things that make it really easy for a teacher to just get it, print it, and be able to implement it right away. That's what I wanted. And so it talks about, anything from how women and girls are viewed in the media, to influential women in history, to confidence, to positive self-talk, like just little things that I wanted to touch on. And they're bundled all together. So it was intimidating, I will say, that to start a TPT store, because I think when you're not on TPT, you're not on Instagram, you're not on YouTube, and you kind of want to start, it can feel like, oh gosh, where do I start? Or can I do this? And my advice is always just to do it. And to find a niche, find something that doesn't exist, or find something that you're really good at that you could share, and just start uploading. And it all goes from there.
Now, do you do your own artwork on that? On the
I
cover?
do. Yep, I do. The first version I didn't. I used just, you can go on TPT and find resources for bundles of fonts or of graphics. But I actually use I just updated it this summer. I use Canva.com.
Yep,
I
love
don't
it.
know
That's
if
my
you
favorite tool too. Also,
oh my gosh, I use that for my thumbnails, for Instagram stuff, for TPT stuff. I love Canva. So
right.
I like to keep things pretty, not too fancy.
Yeah. So,
So,
so you're gonna continue with TPT? You think?
you know what? I think I'll just continue to promote what already exists,
Hmm.
because I feel like, I did upload other things. Like, I remember, actually, YFL, I call it YFL, Young Female Leaders, is not my best selling. My best selling product is like a NWA map resource that I just uploaded because I made it for myself, and people loved it. I was like, okay, this is weird.
What's it about?
Oh, it's like visuals for kids to track their map data.
Yeah.
It was so random. I was like, why do people like this so much? Um, but I am really just passionate about that curriculum. So what I really would like to do is just keep improving it, hearing
Right.
feedback. A great thing about TPT is once you buy it, anytime someone updates it, you can download it. You can re-download it for the same price, or not for the same price. You don't have to re-buy it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if someone's making a font pack and you buy it when it's only $1 and one font, and they keep adding and adding and adding, and suddenly it's $75, you still have all those fonts
Yeah.
for that one thing. So I hope to just hear feedback from teachers and continue to do that. I'm not looking to quit my job and
Yeah.
live off my TPT
Yeah.
earnings. It's really been about just sharing what I created. But yeah, I'm actually going to be on Thursdays. I'm going to be going back to my school in Detroit and running my program like throughout the day, and an after school program. So
Oh,
I'm
okay.
excited to keep testing it and keep adding to it.
Okay.
But sometimes people request things. Like, sometimes people will give me a great idea and say, hey, can you make this? And then I'll make it and give it to them for free and put it on my TPT store. Like, it's fun for me too.
Right.
I think creative people would enjoy that process of
Yeah.
creating something.
So you're gonna go ahead and work in the after school program?
Yep. And then I want to run it during some enrichment periods during the day too, because my schedule now is very unique for the
Hmm.
program. And I'm really lucky. There's a bus that runs from Ann Arbor to Detroit through the university, so it's free for students.
Hmm.
So it's really easy for me to just hop on, and I've run it through my professors. So I'm really, really excited that I can maintain those relationships.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have been able to leave my school knowing that I wouldn't be able to see the kids. So
Right. That's
I'm excited for that.
that's exciting. Okay, so why the name Teach Like a Girl?
Good question. This just came. Well, have you seen Always Campaign Like a Girl? Have you seen that commercial?
Always?
Yeah.
The only
You,
always yeah, I think that's a feminine thing that
yeah,
no
feminine
no.
product.
Yeah.
so
Sorry.
they so so you're
Sorry.
fine.
I'm a
So
guy.
they
I don't pay attention to those
you're a
ads.
dude.
I'm sorry.
You can cut this out if you need to. But in high school, I'd just go to my dad and be like, tampon. He'd be like, don't say that to me.
We just tune it out. Naturally, we just like tune it out. I
We
don't know.
just no. You know what? It's a commercial. You actually wouldn't know that it was their campaign. It was a commercial that I would use. I had an all girls advisory, and I would use this commercial to talk about things. And basically, what it is, and if you just YouTube always like a girl, it'll come up. It's a really short commercial where they put actors in front of the camera and they say, okay, fight like a girl. And the actors will kind of do like this, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
motion. And they'll say, okay, now run like a girl. And they'll kind of run, flailing their arms.
Gosh.
And then after they kind of bring it back and just say, hey, like, why do you do it like this when you say like a girl? That classic insult of you throw like a girl.
Mm-hmm.
So from that, I just said, you know what? I teach like a girl, so that's gonna be my thing. And so I kind of a couple times was like, was that the right name? And people always come to me and say, oh my gosh, you are so lucky you got that name. Don't ever lose it. Like, don't ever let somebody get it from you. So, yeah, I like it because it kind of embodies, what I'm still doing. Somebody asked me, they were like, what are you gonna do with your Instagram now that you're not in the classroom? And I was like, or no, your Instagram name, do you need to change your name? And I was like, well, I'm still going to teach. I'm still a girl, so I'm pretty sure it's still irrelevant.
I think it still works. Yeah, so that's awesome. Wow, okay.
Yeah, that's where it came from.
So it comes from that. Okay, always. I can look it up. I can look at that.
Yeah, go ahead and look it up after. It's a good one.
Cool. All right, so we went over your TPT store. How many products do you have on there right now?
I have about 40.
Wow. Okay. 40.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot, actually. After I just said I don't really have anything on there, but
but that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Now, have you met any of your fans?
Oh my gosh, that's funny that you say
followers?
the word fan.
Sorry, your followers. Yes.
I don't think of them as my followers. I mean, the people I've met are just I just call them my Insta besties.
Insta besties. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I went to it was called an unconference. It was at the TPT headquarters in New York, and so I had a couple people come up to me like, "Oh yeah, I follow you on Instagram," and I didn't really, because you have all these people, and so it's kind of hard to sometimes connect faces to names.
Yeah.
So I've had that, but it's it's more of like a community.
Right, it is a community, definitely. Okay,
Yeah.
so I think I covered a lot with you the past almost an hour now. I think. Shout outs or anything else you want to add about your story? Did we skip over something you want to share with us?
I don't think so. I just think I would just like stress the fact to anybody who wants to, put their teaching journey on social media, or they want to start a YouTube channel or a TPT store. I would just say do it. I think a lot of people send me messages and say, do you have advice for starting? I think a lot of people want to put themselves out there, so I would just say do it.
So why don't we just have them, the listeners,
Like
our
Nike.
listeners right now, follow you and they can message you directly.
Sure, and I will say the exact same thing. I will say do it. So either way.
Oh, quickly,
Yeah.
you meant some cool resources that you actually love. You mentioned Canva earlier. Any other resources that you like,
Good
or
question.
books, or something that keeps you going?
Good question. Let me think of what apps I have right now. You caught me off guard.
That's cool. Got it.
Since I love Instagram so much, the app I use to edit my pictures it's all caps VSCO.
VF.
VS as in snake.
Mm-hmm.
CO, Visco. People always ask me what I use for that. Canva. I love Canva. What else do I like? I can't think of anything right now.
And with your camera, you use just your iPhone?
Actually, you know what? I invested in that baby.
Oh, you did?
I did. I got a big boy camera, but
one of those real video cameras.
Yes,
Nice.
yes, I did. I kind of took all of my earnings, and I just justified it as putting it back into my brand.
That's good. Yeah, that's good.
And so I really, really love that.
How do you edit your videos?
I use iMovie, and nothing fancy.
Mm-hmm. How about I saw you have a new standing desk.
Yes, my standing desk. I love my standing desk. My standing desk is from Amazon. It was $60, and I absolutely love it. It's changed my, especially as teachers, like I do a lot at home.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think people realize how much I work from home, but I am genuinely working. And so having a desk, first of all, was so important to me. But again, I've been having back problems lately, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to try this standing desk thing. And it really helps. I feel more energized. I actually feel more focused.
Right. Yeah. I'm like that way too. I don't have a standing desk anymore. I had one at work.
Yeah.
And then my family, we're going to be moving to a new house. We're building in November.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah. So, and I really want to have an office with a standing desk.
Yes,
So,
they're really great.
$50, huh?
Yeah.
Do you have an
Although,
affiliate link on that?
no, I don't, but I should because people have been asking
You
me about it.
should. You should put an affiliate link. Do that.
I'll do that. The only thing that is not good about it is it doesn't, you can have those desks that adjust, they go up and down.
Mm-hmm.
You can adjust it, but it takes, I mean, maybe that's a good thing because then I don't just all of a sudden slowly start sitting down halfway throughout the day. But it doesn't adjust, and it's very, very small. But I live in a very small space, so
Okay.
I
All
guess
right.
if anyone's looking for that,
So why don't you do this? Once you get an affiliate link, share it with me, and then I'll put it in the show.
sounds good.
All right.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
All right, Christina. Any shout outs to anyone out there in the world?
Shout outs. Let's see. Shout out to my mom. No, I'm kidding. Let me think. I'm trying to think of my Instagram people. My first Instagram hero, her name is Erin Province. She's a history high school teacher, and her Instagram is history_heels_teach. And
underscore heels, like HEA.
yeah,
Okay.
How do you spell heels? Ooh, probably shouldn't be saying that.
Okay, share that with me later.
Okay. Heels like the shoe. Teach. She is so funny, and I just love like humor on Instagram in general. People who don't take themselves too seriously, people who can laugh at their mistakes. I think that's very refreshing to see. Instead of the very perfect altogether. Like, good for you if you're perfect altogether, but I want to see like people eating pizza in their bed and messing up and learning from their mistakes. And
all right, cool. She's gonna be my next follow. I'm gonna follow her next. Cool.
She's great.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
All right.
Any more? Okay. All right, Christina Costa, teach like a girl. You're doing amazing things. Keep going. Thank you for being on our show.
Thank you so much for having me. So fun.
All right. So, yeah. All right, people. Thank you. If you have any questions about Christina, the show, in particular with Christina, please, you can either contact me at fred@teachingbites.com, or you can go directly to Christina's Instagram account. It's Teach Like a Girl. It's all I think all one. I think you search for it, it'll be there.
Yep.
And make sure it's the Christina Costa one. Okay. All right, folks. Thank you for joining us, and goodbye.
Bye.